Most of us like to think we're in the driver's seat of our own personalities. We assume our culture is just a vibe or a mindset we picked up. And we default to that big debate. Is it nature, what's locked in our DNA, or is it nurture, how we were raised? But there is a fundamental player we ignore: the land. Before we had global trade and air conditioning, the ground under our ancestors' feet was their boss. It dictated if they had to be fierce, if they had to be quiet, or if they had to be obsessed with the rules just to see the next sunrise. You aren't just acting like a German or a Frenchman. You're running a survival script written hundreds of years ago by mountains, oceans, and bad neighbors. I call it the source code. Let's look at the scars that created modern Europe. Take Germany. Historically, there was no Germany, just a messy jigsaw puzzle of 300 tiny states. Because they lacked natural borders, they were a favorite playground for invading empires. To survive, they didn't just need an army. They needed to become a machine. Under Prussian influence, the goal became standardization. If every railway gauge, every law, and every screw was exactly the same, they became unbreakable. Precision wasn't about being bossy. It was the belief that systematic order is the only thing that keeps the chaos out. Look at the Netherlands. Over 26% of their country is below sea level. For centuries, the Dutch had to engineer their own land out of the ocean. But here's the catch. If your neighbor's pump failed, your farm flooded too. Cooperation wasn't a choice. It was a requirement. This created a need for radical transparency. If there was a leak in the dike, you didn't have time to be polite. You spoke the truth instantly. In Dutch culture, being direct isn't rude. It's a survival trait from a time when sugarcoating a problem meant the whole community drowned. Then there's France. People often see the French as argumentative, but it's actually a civic identity. While their neighbors were built on obedience to a system, modern France was forged by the violent rejection of one. The 1789 revolution baked a new script into their DNA: intellectual skepticism. To a Frenchman, if you aren't questioning the system, you aren't a citizen. You're a subject. Debate isn't fighting. It's a sport and a duty. Rebellion isn't anger. It's how they ensure the republic stays healthy. In France, critical thinking is patriotism. Now we cross the Channel to Great Britain. To understand British politeness, you have to look at the geography of the island. Most cultures have a frontier or an escape valve, a place to go when things get crowded. The British didn't. For centuries, a massive population was packed into a limited, defined space with no frontiers and nowhere to run. On a map, that coastline isn't just a border. It's a pressure vessel. To survive without constant social combustion, the source code developed a lubricant: radical politeness. It's the mechanical fix for high-density living. The British sorry, or the obsession with the queue, isn't about being weak or passive. It's a buffer zone. It's the code that keeps 67 million people from constantly bumping into each other's hardware. On an island, you don't have the luxury of being a hermit. You are forced to be a neighbor. Politeness is the armor that makes proximity possible. It's how you stay close without staying involved. In Britain, And then there's the arid is plateau social of distancing. Spain. Here, the script wasn't written by density, but by the sun. In the blistering afternoon heat, the private home becomes a furnace, a place to hide, not to live. To preserve the hardware, the source code mandates a system-wide standby, the siesta. But when the sun drops, the operating system reboots. Because the day was lost to the heat, the community's entire social and economic energy is compressed into the night. It spills out of the private home and into the plaza. In this landscape, the individual doesn't retreat to find peace. They emerge to find connection. The plaza isn't a luxury. It's the town's central processor. You don't just go out for dinner. You reintegrate with the collective. In Spain, proximity is the pulse. We like to think we're the authors of our own personalities. But the mountains, the floods, and the sun wrote the script you're running today. You aren't just living in a culture. You are reacting to a set of environmental commands written by the land itself. The next time you think a neighbor, or a nation, is wrong, remember, they aren't broken. They're just running an operating system perfectly adapted to the ground beneath their feet. So, what's in your script? I'm Professor Threy. Thanks for watching.